Hey YouTube, welcome back to Reviews with Bro. We got another great album today to review. I know I've been gone for quite a few months. Things just got pretty busy, hectic. Been searching for a new job, while still actively being involved with my other one, my current one. And things just got a little away from me. But we're back now. Things should be somewhat more regular again starting soon. But today's album, I have been waiting not just to review and do this video on, but I've been waiting for so long from the band ever since they announced it, and that is Here Be Dragons by Avantasia. Avantasia is one of my all-time favorite bands, so I might be a little biased in this one, but they are what's considered a metal opera spearheaded by Tobias Sammet, meaning each album has its own story and there are multiple parts or singers involved from other groups to play their roles of these characters. Now, some notable singers that have been involved or brought into the band for an album or two are Alice Cooper, you might have heard of him before, Russell Allen from Symphony X, Eric Martin from Mr. Big, Biff Bifford from Saxon, Jolyn Turner from Rainbow, Yngwie Malmsteen, Deep Purple. You might have heard of a little ditty called "Smoke on the Water." May or may not be the most recognizable and most famous guitar riff of all time. It's inspired so many others, and although we haven't had Richie Blackmore appear on an album to do some guitar work, never say never. Now, this album, Here Be Dragons, is a little bit different in that there isn't one cohesive story like there usually is. It's inspired by ancient sea maps that had uncharted territories, and they would mark as "Don't come here," "There may be dragons," things along those lines. And he wanted the album to feel like an adventure and not be bounded by just one single concept or story. Now, before doing Avantasia full time, so to speak, Tobias was in a band called Edguy with some of his mates from school, and they helped pioneer some of the very early power metal sound and albums, and had created Avantasia as an excuse to play with some of his idols from before. One of these idols that has been involved in practically every single album is Michael Kiske, but we'll get to that later. But why this is important is that Edguy hasn't released an album in 11 years, and many people have been a little upset about that. They really enjoyed the Edguy sound, and some of the critics of this particular album say that this is an Edguy album with just guest vocalists. And for me, that's what makes this album so great. You get the best of both worlds. You just can't please the metal fandom sometimes. You give them exactly what they want, and they say that they should have done something different. But I digress. The album has some power metal, has some symphonic metal. It has like this Kiss-like party rock anthems at times, as well as some very Celtic feeling elements thrown in. It sounds very 80s and 90s, and yet somehow very fresh and very new. What I enjoy about Tobias is his lyricism. He has this way of describing very specific modern feelings through this medieval kind of fantasy imagery that you'd find in something like Tolkien. And it really strikes at me. And usually on these types of albums, guitar solos go through one ear and straight out the other. I can tell the guitarist is good. I know what they're doing. I'm just not usually struck by anything or find it particularly memorable or special. But on this album, it hosts some of my favorite solos from the entire Avantasia discography. And I think whatever they were doing to prepare for this album to get in the right headspace, I hope they do it more often, because this album, without a better way to describe it, especially through the title of the album, is magical. And now for the track by track. So we open up with the opener Creepshow. And it was the first single released and features only Tobias. The song has some very strong 80s hair metal Kiss vibes. You can very much feel like there's a party occurring while the song is playing, and has an infectious air to it. I remember when it was first released, it was the first single on the album. I strongly disliked it on that very first listen. But after a couple more times being just, questioning myself, what the hell am I missing on this? There's got to be something more. After two more listens, it was as if the song had affected me, and I was singing and belting along with the tune and dancing around like some reanimated skeleton in like this heavy metal Michael Jackson video. Uh, and the next day, I was playing it nonstop. It's a great solid start to the album that definitely gets you hooked and wanting to hear more. Here Be Dragons, the great big epic of the album that Avantasia is known for and continues the same energy from before. As you know from my channel, I am a sucker for the longer tracks that have all these movements and separate pieces to them, and I don't think there could have been a better choice for this song than with none other than H.E.A.T from the great Queensryche. Which is another personal favorite band of mine. The song is gothic, it's emotional, it's dark, its lyrics seem to explore societal alienation. For example, there's this one line, "Not a woman, not a man, just the scorn of town again. Tried to face the sun just like everyone. You shared your dreams and promises, come right through the door for you'll pine no more aimlessly." It seems to reveal a person, kind of feeling out of place with their body, out of place in society, and in a very rigid world, trying to battle depression and suicide. Some great atmosphere throughout the entire song. It moves back and forth, and it's being over 8 minutes. It's over before you know it. But how to something is not when it's not on there. Now the third song is the Moorland at Twilight, and it features my favorite, if not certainly one of my favorite vocalist of all time and frequent guest, like I mentioned earlier, Michael Kiske from Helloween. It's another fast-paced power metal track from the duetting titans of power metal. There's a little bit of a twist here that, however, from your standard speedy Kiske track was some type of like circusy, show-tuney bridge before it picks the speed back up that has a lot of personality. And also, the guitar solo from this album is incredible. There's just something about it that's it fits the vibe of the song. It's shreddy when you want it to be shreddy, and it just has its own little tune to go along with it. Now, the song appears to me to explain someone's encounter with dealing with the supernatural and having like an existential crisis with it. What I love best is the imagery and how things are described, like I'm inside of a Tolkien passage filled with sound. I'm always a fan of the Kiske tracks, and at this point, an entire show could be made just about the Kiske tracks from Avantasia, which doesn't sound like a bad idea to do. The next song, The Witch. Now, finally, an Avantasia album featuring the great Tommy Karavik. He burst onto the power metal scene after replacing the famous Roy Khan and Kamelot in 2012, who had left for mental health reasons. But more on him later, wink wink. Has a brooding, moody gothic masterpiece with a bombastic, catchy, and infectious chorus, perhaps my favorite of the album. The song appears to me to be about the transformation of self and embracing the chaos from such a journey. You have lines such as the bleak arrival of times of right and rights effacing levity, the sands of time raid down, to bury the child that you have been, while holy wrath I can feel your touch. And then the chorus goes, scream sound in the wind and rain, storm bound on a dim November day, a scream sound and they drive me insane, I know, what a beautiful day. This song, uncharacteristically for this genre and this band, has no guitar solo, but there's a really fun, moody synth solo that's reminiscent of something kind of from Night Flight Orchestra. Toby, please get Bjorn Strid on an Avantasia album, please. That would be sweet to see you two collaborate. And I strongly recommend this track if you've never heard this band before. I think it's a great entry point to kind of get the vibe of the entire group. Now, this next song, I believe, is the fifth, Phantasmagoria. It's another fast-paced Avantasia special featuring Ronnie Atkins, who offers a harder edge with his style of singing. I don't think for me there's nothing too special to note on this song. Uh, it just simply rocks hard, it rocks fast, and it gets you headbanging, and it just continues you along with the vibe of the album and brings you to the next song. Bring on the Night. The wizard himself, Bob Catley of Magnum, makes his appearance once again on an Avantasia album. I think he's only beaten by Michael Kiske in how many albums he's appeared on. Maybe Jorn Land is a close second to him. There's a majestic keyboard heavy 80s-esque bop that could only be performed by Mr. Catley, and it just hooks you and keeps you locked into place. The song was purposely written as a tribute to Magnum and their guitarist Tony Clarkin, who has sadly passed away early in 2024, only a mere couple weeks before the release of their latest album. Apparently, while recording, Catley was so moved that he was actually crying during the recording of the song as he was singing it. And it's just an emotional song for sure, and for more than one reason, and it's a top 3 contender of this album. Next song is Unleash the Kraken, another blazing, speedy power metal powerhouse of a song featuring only Tobias. Song fires off all guns blazing, never lets up, featuring one of Toby's best performances, and reminds me of some of his early stuff on the Hellfire Club albums from edguy. It's just nice to bring back that sound, to see, to hear that he still got it. He still has that natural classic power metal, within his blood. He can still, dish it out when he needs to. A blistering guitar solo, double bass drums, and some powerful screams. What more can you say? What more could you want from power metal? Just an overall solid song. Avalon, featuring Adrian Cohen, who I got to see perform with Avantasia a few years ago when she was just a backing vocalist in 2019, which, crazy how fast time flies. It's great to see her come into her own and be involved with these groups. And I also have seen her perform with Seven Spires, her I guess, day job, so to speak, at Power Prog a couple years ago. She can do it all. She can growl, she can scream, she can belt, she can be, kind of soft and emotional. I remember when she did the heavy bit from Book of Shallows, and instead of singing simply harshly like Mike Petrozza would on that song for his part, she just growled her way through it and knocked me off my feet. Been a fan of her ever since. Which is why this song did make me feel a little bit let down. Because I love that side of her voice, and it's what, got me into her in Seven Spires. And I just feel like she was a bit underutilized in this particular song. Not to say that she doesn't sound good. She still kills it. She's still rocking. But it would just be nice to know that Tobias can write with those elements in mind, and can utilize her in growling more in general in the future. But having said that, the song has the majestic Celtic feel. It's noted by the song's title, Avalon, and it really makes me feel like I'm there in Avalon, meandering through this magical landscape, lost in time. And after a few listens, I did get over the fact that Adrian wasn't growling, and I could finally appreciate the tune for what it really is, which is just simply ethereal. Against the Wind. This is the next track. Another fast-paced, Samet-style power metal tune with none other than Kenny Lacremo of the band H.E.A.T, who both the band and him I never heard of until this album, and that I have checked out since. You should too. Kenny just has a monstrous voice, and he fits right into the Avantasia fam. Lyrically, it's another great, impactful song that speaks on the perseverance to survive in the modern landscape, particularly with music, and not give in to simply fitting in. You have lines like, "Don't tell me what to be. Through my eyes you cannot see. I'm me. I'm going my way. Against the wind, I'm going my way." And it's Perhaps a jab at his critics and alleged fans that I complained about earlier, who told him that you need to write a particular style of metal. And I think kind of the meaning of the song is piss off, I'm gonna be me.
Growing up is showing I'm insusceptible to hurt.
And then we have the last track of the album, but not the last song I'm gonna speak about, and that's Everybody's Here Until the End. Finally, we had the return of Roy Khan to Avantasia after having been absent from the roster since the Scarecrow album, quite literally 20 years ago at this point. Was he a bit underutilized on this album and then in the song? Probably. Was it a missed opportunity to not have him and Tommy sing together? Also probably. But man, Roy just kills it. You know, he still can deliver an absolutely emotional masterpiece. That's what he does best. And it's just a great, solid ballad. And it's just enjoyable to hear Moy Roy. I could hear him do anything, whether it's a cover album or some random guest appearance on some other band's album for one song for 30 seconds. I'm still going to listen to it. And the song essentially gives away what the song is about, so I'll let you check it out for yourself. Now we have the bonus track, Return to the Opera. It is a bonus track, but I did feel compelled to include it. It's an interesting story. You know, as I mentioned, people have been complaining to Tobias that he doesn't write like his old style anymore. He doesn't do the kind of cheesy classic power metal like on the first metal opera albums, which are literally called Metal Opera 1 and 2. And so he wanted to give fans that, but he wanted to do it in his own sarcastic, tongue-in-cheek of way, as per usual of him. He wrote it in the span of 2 hours, and he gave fans what they had always asked for and wrote a song in that classic vein. It's filled with whimsical jabs, speedy drums, bombastic choruses. The song does exactly what he set out to do, and I'm thankful for it. We got it out of our system, and so did Tobias. Now he can move on and keep progressing and evolving as an artist. Final thoughts. While it's not my favorite Avantasia album, it's still a fantastic album in its own right and offers much of what I love about this band. It's adventurous, fun, thought-provoking, and is a perfect starting point for new fans, and I'm glad it came out at this time, as this channel is starting out and it gives me a chance to convert new believers to the way of Avantasia. Top 3 songs in no particular order. I think it's hard for me to choose which exact order I want to put these songs in. But The Witch, The Moorlands at the Twilight, and Bring on the Night are my 3 favorites. I think it's a solid 7.5 album. Avantasia has written better albums, and the albums that are quote-unquote worse aren't much below a 7.5. So thanks again for joining in for another Reviews with Bro. It's great to talk about one of my favorites again, and hopefully bring more people into the way of Avantasia. Check me out for more. Like and subscribe. Thanks.